Good evening and welcome to tonight's presentation of St. Francis Fighting Saints Volleyball. From the Sullivan Center on the campus of the University of St. Francis here in Joliet, Illinois. It's the Saints against the Cougars of St. Xavier University in a CCAC matchup. St. Francis trying to stay hot. They come in with a record of 10-8 overall. They are 5-1 in the CCAC, and they're on one of their best runs in quite a while. They'll try to keep it going against a struggling St. Xavier squad, 3-8 overall. They come in at 2-3 so far this year in conference play. Let's take a quick look at the starters for today's game. For St. Xavier, it's Cassidy Wyman, Alexandra Wiss, Grace Murphy, Chloe Mamenga, and Nadia Atten, along with the libero. Grace Murphy is the libero. Jessica Belseth is the sixth starter. For St. Francis, it's Taylor Valent, Brooke Worthy, Alexis Angst, Jade Livesey, Gurk, Stephanie Woods, and Lauren Stefanski with the libero, Katie Zakis. St. Xavier gets the first serve of the game. It's away from Grace Murphy, and our first set is underway. A good diving play by Katie Zakis on the return, and Taylor Valent pops it down in front of the diving Lexi Zaida for St. Xavier. That's a point to the Fighting Saints, and they take a 1-0 lead right out of the gate. Great start for the Fighting Saints, returning the serve. Their serve comes from Brooklyn Withy. St. Xavier in gray, tipped at the net and down out of bounds, a point to St. Xavier. Cougars are in gray except for their libero Grace Murphy in white. Saints libero is also wearing white. That's number 1, the junior Katie Zakis. Everybody else in yellow for the Fighting Saints in their third home match of the season. Serve is away, returned by Zakis. Good set for Lauren Stefanski, who drops it just inside the line. No surprise there on the first hit of the game from Lauren Stefanski. She puts it right where she needs to. She came into today's match with an astonishing .374 hitting percentage. That's 5th in the nation and 1st in the conference as she checks out. And McKenna Bartecki, the best server on the team by the numbers, comes in to center away. Stephanie Woods drops it in for another point for St. Francis. That serve return from St. Xavier got away from them. It drifted back towards the net, and an easy two-handed put down for Stephanie Woods makes it 3-1 in favor of the Fighting Saints. Another serve from Bartecki, played on the back line by Atten. To the back line, that's out of bounds, not tipped, a point to St. Francis. Attacking error made by Cassidy Wyman, sophomore setter for St. Xavier. That's Chloe Mamenga putting it over, played by Bartecki. Taylor Valent looks for the point. Good play from the knees of Grace Murphy. There's Mamenga again. Nice return, tipped at the net and down for St. Xavier. That's a point for Alexandra Wiss, freshman from Belvedere, Illinois, 6 feet tall. Middle blocker for St. Xavier, gets them back on the board, snapping a 3-0 St. Francis run. It's a 4-2 game. It's the set for Jade Livesey Gurk, tipped, kept alive. Blocked at the net by St. Francis, still going. They got to get it over on that hit, and they do. Good wind-up and a good put-down there by Nadia Atten. Atten picks up her first kill tonight for St. Xavier. Cougars have scored back-to-back points, and they trail by just 1. 4-3, as the Cougars get the serve once again. Valent, the first one to touch it for St. Francis. Stephanie Woods puts it over. It's the return from Atten. Good diving play by Zakis. Withy with 2 hands into the net. Tried to get a little bit creative there, trying to push it over softly, a little bit too softly. Didn't get it over, right into the net. 3 in a row for St. Xavier. They've tied it up at 4. They're trying to take their first lead of the night, and they do just that on an ace from Chloe Mamenga. Another freshman for these Cougars. She gives St. Xavier a 5-4 lead. They're on a 4-0 run. It's their first lead of the game. Mamenga serves it right into the net. She picks up an ace on one serve and an error on the next one. Now we're tied up once again, 5-all for Mamenga. That's the 12th service error this year, following her 8th ace of the season. Serve grazes the net there from Hannah Pacheco. Returned into the antenna Last touched by St. Francis on the attempted block there. And that gives it to St. Xavier. 6-5, Cougars on top. Alexandra Wiss backs all the way up. It's a running start for her serve from the left side. Returned by Taylor Valent. Stephanie Woods. Across her body, returned by the Cougars. Too strong, that's out of bounds. Out of bounds on that attack, and the error gives the point back to St. Francis. And after a hot start for the Fighting Saints, the Cougars responded in kind, and we've been back and forth ever since. 12 points into the game, we're tied 6-6. Mamenga hits it over to Wiss, who knocks it over. Excuse me, that was Belseth. And there's a kill from Withy. Brooklyn Withy from the left side. Withy is the only member of the Fighting Saints this season with over 100 kills and over 100 digs. So she's gotten it done on both lines. She's up front at the net right now and just picked up a big point for the Fighting Saints to give them the lead back at 7-6. Trying to make it a 2-point lead. They get it over and down. Taylor Valent jumps in excitement. Not the point that she's used to picking up. She's usually a big hitter at the net. That time she just set it right over. And St. Xavier was unable to handle it. 8-6, Saints on top. Battle at the net. It ends up on St. Xavier's side. They'll try to get it over here. But right into the net. Alexandra Wiss wound up. Sorry, Nadia Hatton wound up. Hit it hard with the right hand and right into the net. Tough play for the Cougars off the serve, but they are able to get it across. Pacheco tried to keep it alive, but a double hit does not allow her to do so legally. So the Saints have to settle for a 2-point lead as they give the serve up, 9-7. St. Francis on top. Cassidy Wyman, sophomore server for St. Xavier on the right side. Played in the middle by Katie Zakis. Here's Withy going up and over. That's a point for Withy. Second kill of the game for Brooklyn Withy. She and the Saints lead now by 3, 10-7. And Katie Zakis goes back for the serve. There's a nice set from Wyman. Belseth puts it over, played by Paomo. Can the Saints get it across? They can't. Good effort. That was a big-time hit right there from St. Xavier. It was Jessica Belseth who hammered it. Gabby Paomo tried to play it on the back line, and she was able to keep it alive. Just didn't have quite enough on that third hit to get it over the net. Really good effort. Not the result they wanted. St. Xavier gets credit for the point, and they trail by 2. Brooklyn Withy taps it over and gets the point. Withy's having a really nice first set tonight. She brings the serve back over to St. Francis's side, and the Saints lead by 3, 11-8 the score. And Alexis Engst, who's been on the bench for a little while now, comes back in for the serve. Withy, Livesey Glork, and Stefanski up front. Hit across from Lexi Zaida, returned by St. Francis. And that ball looks like it's going out of bounds on St. Xavier. Jade Livesey Glork gets credit for the point for St. Francis, and it's a 12-8 game now. It's the biggest lead so far for the home team, the Fighting Saints. Good block by Stefanski. She pushes it down again and under the net. Point to Lauren Stefanski. She blocked it, came right back up off the return, and knocked it back over. Beautiful play by Lauren Stefanski, the 2-time CCAC Attacker of the Week, and you can see why right there. Stefanski has had a great season attacking, but it's her defensive prowess that's been most impressive. 68 blocks this year for Lauren Stefanski. St. Xavier, granted they've only played 11 matches compared to St. Francis's 18, but St. Xavier has just 45 blocks as a team. Lauren Stefanski's got 68 of them now individually for the Fighting Saints, and she's extended the Saints' lead to a game-high 5. St. Francis now halfway to a first set victory. It is, as always, first to 3 sets will be victorious here tonight. Saints lead 13-8 as the Cougars talk things over on the timeout. Saints are talking things over as well, but it was a Cougars timeout. Still St. Francis serves. We come out of the break. Alexis Engst is the one doing the serving. Engst is a sophomore from Bloomington. Her serve goes to the back line, and Grace Murphy. That ball tipped at the net, and so that's a point for St. Xavier. I'm not sure if it landed in or out, but it was tipped by St. Francis. So a point to the Cougars. Coming out of the timeout, they're able to break a good run by the Saints, and it's 13-9. St. Francis has a healthy lead, but St. Xavier hanging around. Serve coming from Grace Murphy. Stefanski returns it. Engst to Withy. Brooklyn Withy picks up another one. Perfect hit from Withy there across court. Dropped it just inside the line. And nobody there for St. Xavier to play it. 14-9, Saints on top. Here's the serve from Withy. Into the net from Lexi Zaida. An attacking error on Zaida gives the point to St. Francis. They stay on that roll. Coming out of the timeout, St. Xavier was able to pick up 1 point, but they could not get into a groove. St. Francis starting to pull away. Another serve from Withy. Pushed across and played by Withy. Tapped over by Taylor Valent. Good hit up into the rafters. It's still alive, but nobody plays it. That's a tough one. Katie Zakis was able to return that hit, but sent it straight up. It is playable off the ceiling, but it came down at an awkward angle. Lauren Stefanski had some trouble with it. The point goes to St. Xavier. Engst to Stefanski, who forces it over to the back line, into the net, and the violation goes against St. Francis. That's back-to-back points for St. Xavier right at a time when they needed it. I guess you could say they always need back-to-back points. Certainly they can always use them. And a third straight point as Zaida's serve grazes the top of the net and drops in. That's a lucky break for St. Xavier. Not the way you draw it up, but they'll certainly take the result, and now they trail by only 3. Another serve from Zaida. Hits the net again, but this one gets all the way over. Stefanski taps it down and gets another one for St. Francis. Stefanski and Withy have been leading the charge here in this first set. So the Saints move ahead 16-12. As I was saying a moment ago, the Saints were threatening to pull away. They were up 15-9. Seemed like they were on cruise control before St. Xavier got themselves back into it with 3 straight points. And now we see how St. Francis responds to that run. Not well in the short term. McKenna Bartecki serves it straight out of bounds. Tried to put it along the sideline, looking for the point on the serve, but a little bit too hard towards the sideline. A service error committed by McKenna Bartecki. She picks up aces at about a 2-to-1 ratio compared to her errors on serves, but that one gets St. Xavier back within 3. 16-13 our score. Saints 9 points away from a first set victory. Engst sets up Valent, and a good kill shot there from Valent. Taylor Valent gets the point through 30 points. St. Francis has a 17-13 lead as Hannah Pacheco comes back in. We also get our first look in today's match at Kendra Bullard for the Fighting Saints. Tapped over by Atten. Pacheco keeps it alive with a little punch, but at a tough angle. It goes out of bounds. A point to St. Xavier, and they're back within 3. This Cougars team not going away. On several occasions it looked like they might do just that, but they fought. They've hung in there. It's still a game here. Here's Valent, tapping it over. Beautiful tip off the fingers of Taylor Valent. She gets credit for that point, just dinking it over the front line. St. Xavier's been able to hang around, but St. Francis is keeping on that arm's distance. They lead by 4. Tapped across to Hannah Pacheco. There's a hit from Zakis, setting up Withy, and Withy is not able to get it down on the right side. Into the net. Another point to St. Xavier, and at this stage, St. Francis will take what's going on right now. They're just trading points. And as long as they keep doing that, St. Xavier can't come all the way back, but Saints would like to go on a run akin to a few that they had earlier in the first set. And not here. It's St. Xavier who picks up back-to-back points. That was Nadia Atten forcing it down with the right hand. Atten picks up the kill for St. Xavier. It's an 18-16 game. Cassidy Wyman's got a chance to make the deficit just one. Good play by Withy to play the serve. Zakis gets it over. Wyman sets up Zaida, who spikes it down towards the back line. And the Cougars are indeed within 1 point. Timeout called by St. Xavier. Excuse me, by St. Francis. So St. Xavier called a timeout when they were down 13-8. And ever since that point, they've outscored the Fighting Saints 9-5. So now St. Francis calls timeout, and they'll try to go on a similar run coming out of theirs. It was at one point 15-9. That's the biggest lead that the Fighting Saints have had so far in this game. But since 15-9, the score has gone 8-3 in favor of St. Xavier, a highly regarded team here in the CCAC coming into this season. They received a substantial number of votes in the preseason national poll. But once the first in-season poll came out, they had not gotten any votes as they've gotten off to a sluggish start at 3-8, but trying to start a hot streak here tonight against one of the premier teams so far this year in the CCAC, the Fighting Saints. Out of the timeout, it's Withy looking for the kill, but a good dig on the other end by St. Xavier. Katie Zakis hits it up. Pacheco hits it over. Good diving play. Grace Murphy keeps it alive. Palmo does the same for St. Francis. Tipped at the net, still going thanks to Mamenga. There's Nadia Atten winding up, returned by Zakis. We've got a good volley going here. Tipped across by Withy, and this time St. Xavier's ready for it. Zaida to the back. Saints need to get it over here, and they do. Katie Zakis the last touch. Zakis on the first touch this time, receives a good hit. Kendra Bullard gets it across. Here's the Saints again. And now another chance for the Cougars. Going back and forth, Pacheco, Zakis, and now Bullard. And a good return by Wyman. Nadia Atten gets it over. Tipped at the net, diving stop by Witty. Tipped at the net again, and this time down. A long rally finally goes St. Xavier's way. And they have tied the score at 18. They're on a 4-0 run. And they've tied this one up for the first time since early in the match. 6-6 was our last tie, and it is short-lived. Cassidy Wyman right into the net. That's the second time that's happened to the Cougars tonight, that they've started to get on a roll and then have shot themselves in the foot with a serving mistake. It's a big point for St. Francis. They lead by 1. Katie Zakis has the serve for the Saints, and she hits it into the net. And that's a big point for St. Xavier. We're tied at 19. It'll be the first to 6 points from here. Serve belongs to Nadia Atten. She does the deed from the right side. Pacheco sets up Stefanski, and another point for Lauren Stefanski. She just drops it down. Stefanski, 6 feet 4 inches tall. She's the only 6-footer on the St. Francis roster, and she's 4 inches taller at least than anybody we've seen play for St. Xavier tonight, but she hasn't been getting her kills with power. She's just been tapping it up over everybody's outstretched arms. It's worked out very effectively for the Saints, who try to take a 2-point lead here. And they do, thanks to Lauren Stefanski. That time she does use power. She forces it down just inside the line. Might have been tipped there by St. Xavier. 21-19, Saints on top. Trying to win this one with a late run. But Mamenga gets the Cougars back on the board. A big hit from the freshman Chloe Mamenga. Our score is 21-20. St. Xavier has not led this set since very early on. But they are fighting to stay alive, and they've kept it close. And now we're tied again as Withy whacks it into the net. 21-21. This game gets tighter and tighter as we go. We're tied once again. Serve belongs to the libero, Grace Murphy, and it's too short. Too short on the serve. That's the second time in the last couple of minutes that a mistake on a serve has really hurt St. Xavier, and now the Saints are just 3 points away. Here's Withy. Returned by Zaida and off the side of the arm of Brooke Withy. And off to the back wall. We're tied again, 22 up. We were tied early on at 1, 4, 5, and 6. And then we didn't have another tie, I don't think, until 18. But now they've been going back and forth again. St. Francis held the lead in the interim. Here's Stefanski. It's returned this time. And St. Xavier takes the lead. I believe that was Mamanga who got the hit. 23-22, St. Xavier on top. And the Fighting Saints call a timeout. Saints have led pretty much the entire set. But now they've lost it very late. St. Xavier takes their first lead since the first handful of points in this set. 23-22, they're up. And Kara Courier trying to get her team focused once again and get them back to the way they played when they jumped out to a 6-point lead at 15-9. Since that point, that was the largest lead of the game. Since that point, St. Xavier has outscored St. Francis 14-7. St. Xavier on the year has been good early on, at least relatively speaking. They've won 5 out of their 11 first sets this year. And it might not sound like a great number, but consider they're just 3-8 overall. It has not been because they've gotten off to slow starts. But that just goes to show all the more why if you can knock them out early, they have not really done a great job of bouncing back. Let's see if St. Francis is able to do that here in the first set. Jade Livesey-Groark blocked out of bounds. It's a big point for St. Francis as we're tied again at 23. You've got to win by 2. So St. Francis will need back-to-back points here in order to win at the standard 25. It's been a while since either team has had a 2-point lead, though. Pushed over, blocked by Stephanie Woods, but returned by St. Xavier. Cassidy Wyman gets the point to put the Cougars ahead 24-23. Game point here for St. Xavier. They've trailed almost the entire set, but they can win it with this hit. Serve is away. Hanks sets up Woods, and Woods ties it at 24. So this game will not be won with 25 points. Hannah Pacheco goes back to serve it, and she'll try to give St. Francis their first lead since it was 22-21, which all of a sudden seems like a long time ago. Tapped over, free ball here for the Saints. Zakis sets up Bullard. Kendra Bullard to the back line, played by Emily Mayer. Knocked out of bounds by Withy. And that point goes to Nadia Atten. Second game point coming up here for the Cougars. 25-24 their lead. Serve is away. Received by Valent. Awkward hit there, but Valent does get it over. That's down for St. Xavier, and they win the first one. Final point goes to Nadia Atten, and a valiant comeback there. Not a valiant comeback, but a valiant one by the visiting side. St. Xavier is able to overcome a 6-point deficit. They storm back for a 26-24 victory, and it's the first time that St. Francis has lost a set in a long time, but they've still got plenty of opportunities to win the match. We'll take a quick break here. 26-24, St. Xavier on top in the first set. They take a 1-0 lead in this best-of-5 match. One set in the books. We've got at least 2 to go, and Saints are hoping for 3, maybe even 4, as they try to come from behind for a victory tonight. St. Xavier came from behind for a first set victory. They beat the Fighting Saints 26-24. And now Fighting Saints middle hitter Lauren Stefanski will check out for the libero Katie Zakis, and the Saints will get the first serve here in the second game. No score up on the board yet as we get set to start a new one. Pacheco, Woods, Bullard, Withy, and Valent are the other 5 on the floor for St. Francis as we get set to start the second game. Like I was just saying prior to the end of that first set, St. Xavier has not been terrible starting out matches. They're now 6-6 in first sets this year. It's after that point that they've really struggled, amassing a 3-8 record overall. So we'll see if Taylor Valent and company can get the Saints back in the right side of the result here in the second game. Valent sends the first serve away and right into the net. So the second game picks up where the first one left off. Saints making a few costly mistakes, and St. Xavier picking up some points in succession. Their 26-24 victory was just the second time the entire first game they led by as many as 2 points, as Brooklyn Withy does not allow them to take a 2-point lead in this one. She hammers it down for her first kill of the second set, and the Saints' first point were tied at 1. 6-4 and 26-24. That's the only time in the first game that St. Xavier led by as many as 2. That's out of bounds, and that's a point to the Fighting Saints, 2-1. In case you hadn't noticed, of course, the two teams have flip sides. St. Francis is now hitting from left to right as Zakis serves. Wyman pops it up. Pushed over that by Nadia Atten, and Atten gets it down for the point. We're tied up at 2. As for St. Francis, they know what it feels like to play in a long match here at home. They may be gearing up for another one tonight as Lauren Stefanski drops one down just in front of Momenga, who tried to make the play, leaning forward. She was able to get her hands on it, but hit it straight out of bounds. So another kill for Lauren Stefanski, who stays hot. Stefanski, I mentioned earlier, .374 hitting percentage on the season coming in. There's Alexis Angst with the serve. And a nice hit by Nadia Atten. Nadia Atten this season has been the best attacker for St. Xavier, 121 kills this year. She also leads the team with a .171 hitting percentage. She's had a nice night so far. Angst sets up Stefanski. Good defense. Good defense by Zakis, and the Saints are able to punch it over, but out of bounds. It gives St. Xavier the 4-3 advantage. Two sides feeling each other out to begin this second set. No advantage of larger than 1 point so far. Angst for Withy. Hit on the back line. Kept alive by Momenga. There's Stefanski blocked. Still alive for St. Francis. Stefanski taps it over. And knocked inbounds by St. Xavier just inside the line. There was really no one in good position to play that ball for St. Francis. Everybody was a little bit out of sorts just based on the rhythms of that rally. And they just hoped that it went out of bounds. It very nearly did, but hugged the line and stayed in. Cougars lead by 2. And now they lead by 3 as they get that one past the big arms up front. 6-3. St. Xavier scored 3 in a row. Breaking a 3-3 tie and taking their biggest lead of the match so far. Stefanski sets up Withy. Tipped at the net this time by Stefanski. Zakis for Livesey Grork. Pushes it towards the sideline on the left, and she's able to get it in there. St. Francis snaps the run. They trail now 6-4, and Withy gets the serve. Taylor Valent is back in for the Fighting Saints. Good block, still alive though. Blocked again, and again kept alive by the Cougars. From the back line, that one grazes the net. Saints keep it going. Taylor Valent over softly, and nobody can get to it for St. Xavier. Off the initial hit, it just seemed to float in the air forever. And eventually fell to the hardwood floor. Back-to-back scores for St. Francis. They're back within one, 6-5. There's Nadia Atten into the net. Point St. Francis, we're tied at 6. 3 in a row. We were tied at 3. St. Xavier scored 3 in a row. And now we're tied at 6 as the Fighting Saints have done the same. Tipped at the net to the back line and Zakis. Angst for Livesey Groark, blocked. Back to the Saints side. Livesey Groark again, blocked again, and tipped by Withy out of bounds. Point to the Cougars. They lead 7-6. Substitute comes on for St. Xavier. It's freshman Lexi Zaida. Taylor Valent tipped and down. A little bit too much force on that one for Taylor Valent. It was tipped at the net, but nobody for the Cougars was able to keep it alive. So a point to the Fighting Saints, ties it back up, 7-7. We've been tied at 1, 2, 3, 6, and now 7. Back and forth early in this one. Angst for Livesey Groark, trying to give the Saints the lead back. She does just that. A kill for Jade Livesey Groark, and the Saints are back up 8-7. It's their first lead since, I believe, 2-1 was the last time they were ahead. And now they can take their first multi-point lead of the second set. Up by as many as 6 in the first set. St. Xavier came from behind, and they've tied this one up as well. Sneaking that one just inside the line. We're tied 8-8. Sends Nadia Atten back to the right side for a serve. Flat-footed serve by Atten into the net. Couldn't get enough on it. Service errors have been a particular issue for St. Xavier. That's, I think, now their 4th of the match. St. Francis will happily take the points. They lead by 1. Anna Pacheco's serve is away. Hers is returned. Blocked by the Saints, still alive, and not anymore. Kendra Brewer gets the block. Stephanie Woods was in there as well. Nice effort by the Cougars to keep it going after that block, but a little bit too forceful. And the Saints now have their first multi-point lead of the second game. They tip this one at the net to the backside, and Zakis. Here's Woods. Stephanie Woods looking for her first kill of the game, but it is returned by St. Xavier. Kendra Brewer keeps it up in the air. Woods taps it in and down. Well, Woods had the power shot a moment ago, could not get her first kill of the set. It was returned by St. Xavier. Looked like the Cougars were to get the point for a moment. But nice job by the Saints defense to keep it alive, and then Woods on just a soft little tap did get it over, and she did get the kill. 11-8, St. Francis has the lead. They're on an 8-2 run right now. And it's good to see it because they ended the first game a little sluggish, at least in terms of the results. The effort seemed to be as it was when they were building their lead. They just didn't get the results they were looking for as they turned a 15-9 lead into a 26-24 loss. And then after St. Xavier scored 6 of the first 9 points here in the second set, that made it, going back to the end of the first set, a 22-12 run for the Cougars. But St. Francis appears to be back on track, having scored 8 of the last 10. The freshman setter, Hannah Pacheco, still has the serve for the home team. Played by Murphy. And pushed across by Mamenga. Here's Taylor Valent, a big hit from Taylor Valent. Right into the middle of the floor, nobody there for the Cougars, and that's probably for the best for them. That would have taken somebody's head off. Big hit from Valent. It's now a 9-2 run for St. Francis. They lead 12-8. Pacheco gets it over. It is returned to the back line, and that's just inbounds. Hits the line. It's a big point for St. Xavier. They trail once again by 3. Their largest lead has been 3 here in the second game. For the Saints, it's been 4 just a moment ago at 12-8. There's a set from Pacheco for Woods. Woods tips it over, and Murphy knocks it into her teammate, Alexandra Wiss. Can't keep it alive. Nice hit by Woods. That's her second kill, and I think her last 2 hits, and they both come like that. Little rollers off the fingertips. 13-9. It matches the biggest lead of the game for St. Francis, and again, they're the first to reach the halfway point. That ball is out of bounds. Point to St. Francis. Attacking error on the Cougars. Saints lead by 5. Valent trying to make it a 15-9 game. Pacheco to Zakis. There's Brooklyn Withy. Forces it to the side into the net. And another point for St. Francis. Saints have scored 3 in a row. They've scored 12 of the last 15. And just like last game, they lead 15-9. This was the high point of the first set. This is when the wheels fell off. They'll try to avoid the same fate here, but not a good start in trying to avoid that same fate as Valent sends it right into the net. 15-10 our score. USF still on top. But they've hit their largest lead of the match twice at 15-9 in the first game and now here in the second as well. Stephanie Woods trying to extend it back to 6, but a good return. Pushed over to the back line, and Gabrielle Paomo. Here's Withy. Diving play by Grace Murphy, but out of bounds. Point Saints, 16-10. They've matched their largest lead at 6 points. Now achieved 3 times total, twice in this set. It's the junior Zakis on the serve. Nice play by Paomo. Stefanski forces it across, played by Murphy. Blocked, but not in the right direction. Bullard and Stefanski tried to get their hands on it. They did, but it squirted down to a stop on St. Francis's side of the court. It's a point for St. Xavier, and the score is 16-11. Serve is away from St. Xavier. Here's Withy. Tipped, but right to the backside. Still going for the Cougars. Here's Atten. Good play from the knees of Paomo. Kendra Bullard looks for the point. To the back line. Cougars keep it going. Tipped again. Here's Pacheco to Stefanski. Taps it in, but not down. Good diving play by the defense. And now Bullard into the net. Forces it back over somehow off the block. Almost an accidental play, it seemed, by Kendra Bullard, but the rally goes on. Stefanski pushes it over again. There's a block by Stefanski, but on the back line, Cougars keep it going. Nadia Atten to the sideline and out of bounds. Great point there for the Fighting Saints. On a long back and forth, Saints reclaim the 6-point lead. A couple of miracle defensive plays as part of that sequence for St. Francis kept it going. They are just 8 points away from the 1-1 tie in this match. Inks sets up Stefanski. Pushed up into the air. Cougars are able to get it back across. Inks for Livesey Crook into the net. St. Xavier back on the board, trailing by 5. 17-12 is our count. Serve belongs to Alexandra Wiss. Hanks sets up Stefanski, who powers it home. Another kill for Lauren Stefanski. Timeout called by St. Xavier. 18-12 is our score. St. Francis in the driver's seat here in the second set after St. Xavier took the opener 26-24. It's been a rough couple of years for the Fighting Saints against St. Xavier. They've dropped their last two. That coming off of a 5-game winning streak in the all-time series between these two teams. All-time, St. Francis is 59-15 against St. Xavier, and this is the first time that Cougars have really played here as a visiting team in 7 years. For a while now, they've separated the conference into divisions, so the North and South only played each other in the crossover. So technically they did play each other in this building last year because the crossover event, at least one of them, was played here. So that was more or less a neutral site because that entire weekend event was here. All the teams in the conference were involved. But this is the first time that St. Xavier has played in this building as a true visitor since 2012. So far, St. Xavier leads, but Saints are 7 points away from evening it up. 18-12 our score as Witty sends the serve away. Here's the answer from St. Xavier. Tip to the net, but down for Jessica Belseth. Belseth gets the point to make it 18-13. And very much like in the first game, St. Xavier has trailed most of the way, but they're hanging around, just keeping it close enough. That one run could get them right back into it. They went on that run right around now in the first game. This time St. Francis is able to snuff it out, at least that point. It goes to Taylor Valent. The lead is back to 6, 19-13. They've had that 6-point lead a number of times here in the second game, and they've not yet been able to push it to 7. They've got the touchdown lead, trying to tack on the extra point here. Hatton blocked at the net, right to Taylor Valent. Angst for Valent. Valent gets it over, tipped at the net and out of bounds. A point to St. Francis, and they do indeed extend the lead to 7 points, 20-13. They appear to be in control of this second set, but still 5 points to go. Serve is away from Hannah Monfrey. Witty up into the air. Angst keeps it alive, and Monfrey gets it over. Pushed back by Nadia Atten, but right into the net. That ball was hit behind Atten. Tried to recover, but couldn't. She got her hand on it, but couldn't get enough lift. 21-13. Saints are pulling away here. Can they keep it up? Not if Nadia Atten has anything to say about it. After hitting the previous one into the net, Atten forces this ball straight to the ground on the dead space in the St. Francis defense. The score is 21-14. Cougars need to score probably 3 or 4 in a row to feel like they've still got a shot in this game. Angst for Valent. Valent taps it over, and a miss hit by Mamenga. Gives the point to Taylor Valent. Chloe Mamenga tried to play that one. It seemed like she was in position to do so. I think she just took her eye off it, kind of whiffed. Not the easiest hit in the world, but one that she probably should have gotten to, and the Saints are glad she didn't. 22-14. That's out of bounds. So another point to St. Francis. And now they really are running away. 23-14. They are 2 points away from evening up this match. Serve from Pacheco. Blocked out of bounds. Cougars are back on the board. 23-14 is the score. Grace Murphy, the junior transfer from UIC, the Mighty Flames, sends it off. Stephanie Woods gets the point for St. Francis. Nice hit, Stephanie Woods. And this is game point now for the Saints. Leading 24-15. This would make it 1-1 and would set the rest of the match up for a best of 3. Pushed across to Zakis. Pacheco with a nice set to Woods, and Stephanie Woods picks up back-to-back kills to finish this one off. A very impressive win for the Fighting Saints. They got better as this one went on. 25-15. They outpaced the Cougars of St. Xavier, and they've tied the match up 1 win apiece. So it is indeed a best of 3 sets the rest of the way. We'll take a break here. Back with the third set in just a few moments. 1-1, we're tied. At the Sullivan Center, we've had a fun volleyball matchup so far tonight. St. Francis against their conference rivals, St. Xavier. 1-1, we're tied after 2 sets. The first one went to the Cougars 26-24. The second one went to the Saints 25-15. And St. Francis really, but for a late run from St. Xavier in the first game, could very easily be ahead 2-0 right now. They've really outperformed the Cougars overall, except for that one late stretch in the first set. We'll see if the Saints can jump out to a hot start and maybe try to put away the Cougars quickly here in the third set. Cassidy Wyman's got other ideas as she heads back for the first serve of the game for St. Xavier. It's away, and we are underway. Brooklyn Withy gets the Saints on the board first. 1-0 St. Francis on the kill from Withy. Withy very active in that first game, not as involved in the second. And we're tied at 1 off a good hit from Nadia Atten. Atten all season has been St. Xavier's bellwether. When she's gone well, the team has gone well. 121 kills coming in. Almost 40 more than second place on the team. There's another one for Withey. 2-1, St. Francis on top. Brooklyn Withey's got both of the Fighting Saints' points here in this third set. Here comes Alexis Inkst in to serve. Peyton Baird back to the sideline for the Fighting Saints. Hit by Zaida, played by St. Francis. Here's Livesey Groark, tipped into the net. Point to St. Xavier to tie it up at 2. This is the way all three games have gone so far. To start out, we've seen a lot of back and forth, exchanging points, and then each of the first two games have been identical for the beginning and the middle. Back and forth early, and then St. Francis goes on a run. Nice work by the Saints to keep that one alive after initial mishit. There's Mamanga, blocked, still alive, and over for St. Xavier. Nice work by the Cougars there. Jade Livesey Groark to the back line, played by Atten. Nadia Atten steps up, looks for the kill, and has it. She positioned that one so well, perfectly dropping it into the corner. 3-2 St. Xavier leads. Now the difference in those first two games, they were very similar in the beginning, they were very similar in the middle, towards the end. In the first one, St. Xavier went on a run, and in the second game, St. Francis kept up their run. This time, 4 hits from St. Francis and a point to St. Xavier. They lead 4-2. Their biggest lead in the second set was 6-3, and then the Saints just took over. Outscoring them the rest of the way, 22-9. Stefanski tried to get it over. It's returned, but out of bounds. Out the end line. 4-3. St. Xavier leads, and the Saints are within 1. They get the serve back. Taylor Valent comes in for Gabby Paelmo. And Withey has the serve. Mamanga soars up high, tipped at the net, goes over and out of bounds. But the tip makes it St. Xavier point. They're up 5-3. This is the third home match of the season for St. Francis. Each of the first two did go 5 sets. They're trying to snap that trend today, only if it's in the positive way, as Valent gets it down. Nice return by Atten. Third hit is over. There's Inkst for Zakis. Good set for Livesey Groark to the back line. Returned by Zaida. And that's it from Wyman, a little bit too high to Wiss. And she's not able to touch it. Point to St. Francis as the Cougars fail to get it over. Hannah Monfrey is in to serve. Freshman out of Franklin, Wisconsin. Way up north. Set from Wyman for Mamanga. Good hit by Mamanga. There's a similar spot to where Nadia Atten put it earlier, right down in that near side corner. 6-4, St. Xavier by 2. Pass from Inkst, a little bit behind Withey. She is able to get her across though. Returned on the line. St. Xavier is putting the ball right where it needs to be here in this third game. It's the third or fourth point they've already picked up out of their 7, in which they've gotten it just inside the line, if not on the line. They lead by 3. Stephanie Woods tries to make it 2, but it is playable for St. Xavier. Up into the air towards the sideline. Inkst sets it up for Withey, and Withey drops it in between a couple of St. Xavier defenders. Those Mamanga and Mayer, who both tried to play that one, but it landed right in between the pair of them. And the Saints are back on the board, trailing again by 2. Here's the serve from Hannah Pacheco. That's going to be a double hit. Or did somebody scoop it? Yeah, underhanded. That was the problem there. St. Xavier back up by 3. This match is their largest lead of the match. Achieved once in the second game, now twice here in the third. They've never led by 4, never led by more than 2 in the first set. That was the one that they won. 26-24 was their biggest lead that whole game. Mayer keeps it alive. Good play for St. Xavier, but Atten goes right into the net. A rare miss hit from Nadia Atten. And again, the Cougars cannot go up by 4. Here's the hit from Valent. Tipped over and down. That time a very good touch by Nadia Atten. Cougars by 3. Palmo comes back in to play defense for Taylor Valent as Cassidy Wyman goes back to serve. Wyman's serve is short into the net. It's a problem that Cougars have for the most part cleaned up after a shaky start serving. But that mistake gets the Saints back within 2 and gets them the serve back. Katie Zakis does the duty for the Fighting Saints. Nice recovery by the Cougars. They get it over. Free ball here for St. Francis. Stefanski trying to take advantage of it. Nice job by Wyman getting that ball off the back of her hand. But another chance for the Saints here. This time it's Peyton Baird. It's blocked, pushed back over. Tapped across by Lauren Stefanski. And after that first block from St. Xavier, everything was all over the place, and Stefanski took advantage of it. She saw that there was nobody right at the net, and she just tapped it right down. An easy point for Stefanski after a lot of work to get to that. Here's Peyton Baird again. She's blocked, and she pushes it back over, but out of bounds. Saints had a chance to tie it up there. Instead, St. Xavier extends the lead back to a pair. 10-8 our score. 1-1. The match is all knotted up after a nip and tuck St. Xavier win in Game 1 and a blowout for St. Francis in Game 2. Withy brings the Saints back to within a point. Another kill for Withy. She's had a nice night. It's 10-9. Saints can tie it up on this serve. It'll be taken by Alexis Engst. Engst shuffles the ball in her hand a few times and now sends it away after the whistle. Good set from Wyman. And a nice kill shot there for Jessica Belseth. 11-9 St. Xavier on Belseth's point. Came into today ranking 3rd on the team with 67 kills. She's been relatively quiet so far. Jade Livesey-Gork, good play by Murphy. And a good kill there by Chloe Mamenga. Mamenga has not been terribly quiet. She's had a lot of big hits like that. She ranked 2nd on the team coming in with 83 kills. And she's added a bunch to that total in this match so far. St. Xavier leads 12-9. Engst sets it up for Stefanski, and Stefanski has another kill. 2-time reigning CCAC Player of the Week. She's trying to work on another award here today. Not real likely. Saints had 6 matches last week, which helped her accumulate a lot of stats. And the rest of the team as well, as they went 5-1. Blocked, but down on St. Francis's side. So Belseth gets another kill. 13-10 St. Xavier. First time that they have been the first to reach 13 tonight. And the ball rolls way out towards the door. That'll have to be retrieved. This is the only match this week for St. Francis tonight. So they've got to make the most of it. Do some serious damage here. Won't have another one until a week from today. Jade Livesey-Gork lifts it up over the net. Tapped across and out of bounds. Point to the Saints, and they are again within 2. St. Xavier just can't cross that 3-point threshold. They've held a 3-point lead so often, but have never been able to push it to 4. And St. Francis just keeps on hanging around. Thrown across. There's Taylor Valent to play it. Stephanie Woods Tosses it over. Right back on the other side. Taylor Valent tipped at the net. Good play by Grace Murphy. Here's Atten stepping up from the back line, and a lunging play made by Withy. Jade Livesey-Gork is blocked, and Taylor Valent hit it twice. Good rally there, and ultimately the point goes to the visiting side. St. Xavier up 14-11, and a timeout is called. Timeout called by St. Francis. It's the first timeout we've seen here in the third set. St. Xavier has not been able to pull away. They've held the lead throughout this one, but never by more than 3. Saints always seem to be able to push their way back. And Kara Courier wants to make sure they're able to do the same here. And she calls everybody over to talk it out. 1-1 we're tied, 26-24. The Cougars won the first one, 25-15. The Saints won the second. Like I said, it's the only match this week for St. Francis. They get the weekend off, a rare weekend off here in conference play. They'll return to action next Tuesday night. It'll be a 7 o'clock game at Indiana Northwest, another CCAC game. Indiana Northwest off to a pretty good start, 3-2 in conference. They're 7-3 overall. Saints just 10-8 overall, and I don't mean to suggest that that's a bad record, but they did get off to a slow start, and considering how hot they've been, you might think their record a little bit better than that. They are 7-1 in their last 8 matches, and that includes 5 consecutive conference victories. After they started, 4 straight conference victories after they started the season 1-1. But thanks to a rough start in non-conference play, they've just barely climbed over 500. They would very much like to stay there. And they got a little push in the right direction there as Chloe Mamenga serves it up into the net. A point to St. Francis on the air. 14-12 is our score. Anna Pacheco will now try to make it 14-13. Tipped back by Stephanie Woods. St. Xavier tries to play it again. Pacheco to Zakis. Sets up Taylor Valent. Valent is blocked. Pacheco this time goes the other way to Peyton Baird. Played on the back line by Mayer. Thrown over by Atten. An awkward first touch by the Saints. They're able to get it over to the back line. Looked like that one was just going to land inbounds, so a good play by Grace Murphy to keep it alive, and they get it across. St. Xavier gets the point. So it was indeed a smart play by Grace Murphy. Hard to tell initially if that ball was going to get out of bounds or stay in. I think it would have stayed in. And on the ensuing rally, St. Xavier is able to get the point. They lead by 3 again. But again, they can't make it 4. That one didn't even make it to the net. That serve from Wiss went right into the back of Nadia Atten. He smiles about it. She's okay. 2-point lead for the Cougars. Saints serve. Taylor Valent will do the honors. Put up into the air by Pacheco. Zakis sets up Peyton Baird. Baird is tipped at the net, but the Cougars can't do anything with it. And for the first time in a little while, St. Francis is within 1, 15-14. And now they'll try to make the late push that St. Xavier was able to make in the first game. They came all the way back from 6 down. Saints only had to erase a 3-point deficit. It's down to 1. Back line Zakis. Pacheco for Baird. Out of bounds. Nice try there from Peyton Baird, but a little bit out of range. Just by a few inches, it looked like. The attacking error gives St. Xavier a 16-14 edge. We have been very close here in this third set. Zakis gets it over. Here's the return from Belseth. That's out of bounds. Just out from Belseth. That one didn't miss by more than an inch or two. 16-15. St. Xavier has already outscored their total from the second set, but here's St. Francis nipping at their heels. Good play by Zakis to keep it alive. Withy. Diving play by Murphy. Popped up into the air. It grazes the net on a good hit by Belseth. Back across from Stefanski. Good block by Lauren Stefanski, and we're tied at 16. Stefanski hit the previous ball and it was returned right into her waiting paws. She knocks it down for another block. Brand new game here, tied at 16. We'll play up to 9. Another block. Stefanski in on it again with Peyton Bird. And the Saints have their first lead since the early moments of this set. 17-16 is our score. We're on a 5-1 run here. Do I hear 6-1? I don't. Saints looking for another block, but that time it hit off the sidearm and out of bounds. Tied at 17. Serve from Atten goes out the sideline. Another service error called against St. Xavier. I shouldn't say it was called against them, more committed by them. Nothing the officials could do about it. 18-17, St. Francis leads. Alexis Engst gets the serve. To the sideline, out of bounds from Jessica Belseth. And the Saints have, I believe now, their first 2-point lead of the game, 19-17. They've been on a good run here. And now they're knocking on the door of their second consecutive victory after they took the second set, 25-15. Engst to the back line, that's just out. Saints have not made too many mistakes on the serves in tonight's match, but there was one. Got St. Xavier back within one, 19-18. Here's the serve from Grace Murphy. Engst sets up Stefanski. Tipped initially, but the Cougars couldn't get it back across. I think St. Francis now will take a 2-point lead. And here's the case, 20-18. Here comes the serve from Withy. Pushed across to the back and out. 21-18 St. Francis, and that's going to force St. Xavier to call a timeout. Bob Hersema gets off the bench and signals for the time, calling his players over. Hersema now in his 32nd season coaching at St. Xavier University, with the retirement earlier this fall of Brenda Williams over at Olivet Nazarene. St. Xavier coach becomes the dean, more or less, of CCAC coaches. He's been at it for a while, but hasn't had a lot of success here in this building. Hasn't had a lot of success against St. Francis. I said before, 59-15. That's the Fighting Saints all-time record against St. Xavier. Just a dominant mark. And that's despite the fact that the Saints have lost 2 in a row to the Cougars. They're trying to snap that string today and beat them for the first time since 2016. St. Francis had not lost a set prior to today since a 3-1 loss to Indiana East. They lost that match. It's the only one they have lost in the last 2 weeks. That was on Saturday. They bounced back from that. They were at the Indiana East Red Wolves Invitational, and they were kind. They let the home team win. But after that, they completely destroyed the competition. 3 consecutive straight set victories. Withy's serve is off and down. An ace for Brooklyn Withy. 22-18 St. Francis. The Fighting Saints had won 9 consecutive sets prior to today. St. Xavier finally snapped that string, taking the opener tonight 26-24, but they seem to have disturbed St. Francis to the point the Saints are trying to put them away here, back-to-back sets, and they got a big block at the net from Jade Livesay-Groark, 23-18. They don't want to wake a sleeping giant. Since losing that first set, Saints have outscored St. Xavier 48-33, and are now 2 points away from making this one a 2-1 lead for them. Diving play by Zakis. Angst sets up Valent. It's returned by Grace Murphy. Here's Angst for Stefanski, and another kill for Lauren Stefanski. Cassidy Wyman just eaten up by that ball. A big run for the Fighting Saints, and now they're 1 point away from the win. There's some confusion on the floor. St. Francis thought that St. Xavier was calling timeout. They're just making a substitution, that's all. St. Xavier led the majority of this third game. St. Francis came storming back to take a late lead. They were tied, I believe, at 18, and since then St. Francis has scored 6 in a row. And now to make it 7 in a row would win the game as Withy grazes the top of the net. It's returned. Balseth gets it down. Tipped there by Stefanski and Valent. But it does find the ground for a big point for St. Xavier. They need at least 5 more in a row to keep their chances alive in this one. Serve from Mayer. Stefanski taps it down. Another point for Stefanski. And another win for St. Francis as they make it 2 in a row. They take a 2-1 lead in this match. 25 points away from a victory. And they've won the last 2 very impressively. We'll take a short break here. Back in a couple of minutes as the Saints pull within 1 win of a match victory. They lead the Cougars 2-1. USF leads 2-1 over St. Xavier, visiting for the first and only time of 2019, assuming we don't see them again here in the CCAC tournament coming up in November. St. Xavier did take the opening set 26-24. Since then, it's been all St. Francis winning 25-15 and 25-19, and that's been characteristic of the way they've played lately. I mentioned before they had won 9 consecutive sets coming into tonight. Their last 8, they had not allowed the opponent even to reach 20 points. So 8 sets in a row prior to tonight, their opponent had not reached 20 points. St. Xavier halted that streak with the first one tonight, their 26-24 win. Saints have gotten back in form since then. 2 straight in which they've held their opponent into the teens. And now Katie Zakis gets the serve here to start things off for St. Francis in game number 4. And hopefully the decisive game for the Fighting Saints. Zakis sets up Peyton Baird. Baird to the back line, played by Wyman. Here's Atten, returned by Valent. Brooklyn Withy pushes it across, and she does not do so legally. A double touch by St. Francis makes it 1-0. St. Xavier in front early on here. St. Xavier playing for their lives in this one. They need to be the first to 25 points to keep this match alive. If St. Xavier beats them to it, St. Francis beats St. Xavier to it, that is, it'll be game over. And it's tied 1-1. The Fighting Saints pick up their first point. St. Francis came in at 5-1 in conference play this season. Their only loss was a really tough 5-set defeat to Trinity International right here 2 weeks ago today. One came down to the very end. That's out of bounds. Big hit from Belseth, and Taylor Valent just ducked out of the way. Let the ball get by her, knowing it was not going to land in. 2-1. St. Francis takes their first lead of this 4th set. Here's the serve from Alexis Engst. Pushed across, diving play by Valent. Withy to the back line, played by Atten. Into the net. Into the net, hit by St. Xavier. It's a point for the Fighting Saints. They're up 3-1. Another serve from Engst, her 3rd in a row. She's won each of the first 2. Not this one. Chloe Mamenga drops it down to the back line. 3-2, St. Xavier's within 1. Cougars haven't gotten off to the start that they were hoping for this year. They've lost 2 consecutive matches. They're really going to have to fight to avoid a 3rd consecutive defeat. Lauren Stefanski kills another one. Stefanski came in leading the conference with a .374 hitting percentage. I'm not sure what it is today, but it's got to be right up in that neighborhood, if not higher. She's had a great night. That ball's tipped out of bounds by St. Francis, so a point to St. Xavier. They're back to within a point, 4-3. Jessica Belseth once again back for the serve. Back and forth at the net, and the violation was called against Alexis Engst and St. Francis. So we're tied at 4 as St. Xavier gets the point on St. Francis's net violation. Engst to Livesey Grork, blocked. Alexandra Wiss and Chloe Mamenga both in on that block. St. Xavier reclaims the lead by 1 point. It's 5-4. Engst sets it back up for Withy, gets it across, but it's returned. And down right in the middle, Mamenga again. She's having a very good 4th set so far. St. Xavier for the first time here in this game is ahead by more than 1 at 6-4. Engst sets up Valent to the back line. Down to her knees. Nadia Atten's able to make the play. Good diving play by Willie. Valent into the scorer's table. Can't keep it alive. She went as far as she could. Valent just ran out of room. 7-4 St. Xavier. They've scored 5 straight points. Valent to Engst to Stefanski, and that's just inside the line. When in doubt, go to Stefanski. 7-5 our score. And still, St. Xavier just not able to get over that threshold and take a 4-point lead. They have not yet done it tonight. They've led by 3. Got to be 7 or 8 times by now over the course of this match. They have never led by 4. Here's Hannah Monfrey's serve. And Monfrey's going to get the point for St. Francis on a double touch. Called against St. Xavier. We once again have a 1-point game. Pushed across, played by Withy. Here's Jade Livesey-Gork to the opposite end. Tipped down by St. Francis. And a point to the Fighting Saints as the Cougars just not able to keep it going at the net. We're tied at 7, 3 in a row for the Fighting Saints. And another big point for St. Xavier. They put themselves back on top. Alexandra Wiss makes it 8-7. Zakis back in on defense for the Fighting Saints. Momenga back to serve for the Cougars. Too strong on that serve. Out of bounds, we're tied at 8. Early on, all 4 of these games have followed a very similar pattern. They've been tight, they've been back and forth. Neither team able to take a big edge out of the gate. But it's generally been St. Francis who's turned it up as the games have gone on. Pacheco to Peyton Baird, blocked, but Baird pushes it back over. Set up for Nadia Atten, good play by Katie Zakis. Pacheco forces it back across. Here are the Cougars. Zakis to Pacheco to Valent. Another good return by St. Xavier. Nadia Atten drops it down just in front of Brooklyn Withy. Good rally there, point to the St. Xavier Cougars. They lead 9-8. New server coming on for St. Xavier. It's Colleen Corbett. First time we've seen her tonight. Stands back in the left corner, sends the serve away. Pacheco sets it for Woods. Blocked, and Woods tries to return it, but it's into the net. So that's a good block for St. Xavier. They lead 10-8, and Corbett goes back to get another serve. Corbett, a senior who transferred over from Moraine Valley. Here's Taylor Valent getting the Saints back on the board. Give Valent a good set, the full head of steam behind her, and she's tough to stop. St. Xavier couldn't do it right there. Perfect hit from the junior Valent. He was named All-Tournament this past weekend at the Indiana East Invitational. Hatton to Zakis. Here's Withy, and that ball was not tipped at the net. It's out of bounds from Withy. Point to St. Xavier. They lead 11-9. I'll tell you, that's impressive. When you play 4 games at a tournament, you have 1 player named to the All-Tournament team, and it's Taylor Valent. And Lauren Stefanski still did enough to get herself named CCAC Player of the Week for the 2 CCAC games they played in addition to that. Nadia Atten gets another one for St. Xavier. 12-9, the Cougars back in front by 3. Serve is away, and it's an ace. Cassidy Wyman drops it down just in front of Katie Zakis. Our score is 13-9, and finally, St. Xavier moves ahead by 4 points. First time all night they've had a lead this big. Into the net, Hannah Pacheco called for the violation. A 5-point lead now for St. Xavier, and Kayla Courier needs some time to talk things over. Timeout called by St. Francis. They trail by 5, the largest deficit that they've held all match. And the Fighting Saints have some work to do. They lead the match 2-1, trying to avoid a 5th set. They've played a couple of them here at home already this year, but by and large, they've been better keeping these matches shorter. In fact, they've been better off when they've been able to finish off their opponents early. They're 7-1 in 3-set matches this year. So they have swept their opponents 7 times out of their 18 matches. It's a very impressive number, but the longer it goes, the less likely they are to come away with a win. They're just 3-7 in matches that are determined in 4 or 5 sets. This one's already in the 4th because St. Xavier took the opener in a nail-biter, 26-24. St. Francis dominated the next 2 sets, but St. Xavier right now in really good position here in the 4th. Coming out of the timeout, Kara Courier is hoping that all of the problems have been sorted out. St. Xavier gets to keep the serve. They've scored 4 straight points. Stephanie Woods gets it over, forced back down by St. Xavier. And the lead is 15-9. That one just got away from Woods. Didn't mean to hit it where she did. The Saints weren't able to recover. Pacheco sets up Withy, and Withy gets the Saints back on the board. A much-needed point there. It's a 15-10 score. Katie Zakis goes back to serve. Play on the back by Atten. There's Palmo with the return off of Belsit's hit. Katie Zakis gets it across to the back line. Belsit blocked. Atten back to Palmo. Stefanski sets up Brooklyn Withy to the corner. Murphy plays it. Cougars have to get it over here. They do, and they get it down. A kill for Nadia Atten. St. Xavier leads 16-10. Cougars are trying to force a 5th set. They're in good position to do so at the moment. Pacheco to Zakis, and Zakis gets it over. Chance for the Cougars here, but it's blocked by Stefanski. St. Xavier had a perfect chance there for a big hit. Stefanski got in the way. I'm not sure if she got it or if it went a little bit too hard into the net, but either way, St. Xavier could not get it across, and the Saints are back within 5 with the serve as Alexis Engst sends it off. Good hit by Belsit over both Withy and Stefanski, and down inbounds for a St. Xavier point. They're not really allowing St. Francis right now to get back into it. They're doing exactly what the Saints did to them the last 2 games. Jump out for that lead and then just put a stranglehold on it, and they add to it with an ace. It's 18-11. There have been various times tonight when serving has been a problem for St. Xavier. Saints could use one of those mistakes right now. Instead, it gets over. Brooklyn really tries to pick up the kill, but a little bit too hard, going to the reverse side. 19-11, St. Xavier leads, and St. Francis uses their final timeout. Kara Courier called a timeout just a few moments ago when things started to unravel for her team. It was 14-9 at the time. That timeout did not light a fire under the Fighting Saints. Since then, St. Xavier has outscored St. Francis 5-2. Cougars players are gathered around the St. Xavier coaches. The reserves are getting their workout in every timeout. They do a little running, sideline to sideline, and then some push-ups as well. So everybody is working hard out there, I guess, in good position to go in if needed. But right now, St. Xavier's in good shape here in this 4th set. St. Francis seemed to have control of this one. Other than one late run in the first game, Saints had really dominated this whole match until this 4th set, in which St. Xavier's taken over. 19-11 is our score. St. Xavier serve out of a timeout. It's Grace Murphy. Angst to Withy. Good dig on the other side by the Cougars. Cassidy Wyman kept it alive. Now Jade Livesey-Gurk tries to pick up the point. Again, it's Wyman. Off the net. Withy hits it up in the air and out of bounds. It's St. Xavier by 9 now. (20-11). Cougars are pulling away. This game was 10-9 at one point. Stefanski saved by Murphy and kept alive by the Cougars. Nice work by Mamenga as well as Murphy. Angst for Withy. Knocked up into the air by Wyman. Cougars playing great defense right now. Again, they keep the volley going. Blocked by St. Francis. And this time it's finally down. Block for the Saints. They're back on the board, trailing 20-12. Prior to that point, St. Xavier had been on a 10-2 run. They're still on a 10-3 run, which is pretty impressive. Saints, though, would like to cut into that one a little bit further. This one's not over yet, but the Fighting Saints need to get very hot over the next few minutes. Wet spot on the floor being cleaned up prior to Brooklyn Withy's serve. Withy's ready to go. Into the net and out of bounds. Off the right arm of Chloe Mamenga. That gets the Fighting Saints a point on the attacking error. Saints still ticking here. Trying to make this one a game yet. Down by 7. Withy serves it again. But dinked down by Jessica Belsip. That sticks a fork into that potential run from the Fighting Saints. St. Xavier back up by 8, 21-13 with 4 points away from setting up a final set. Valent to Angst to Stefanski. It's returned. Good play defensively by Withy. Valent gets it on the line. Really nice defense by Withy and a great hit by Valent. Got that one beyond the back line of defense and somehow inbounds just on the line. 21-14. Here's Hannah Monfrey in to serve. That's in. Good hit by Atten. Sneaks it into the corner. 22-14. Here's Chloe Mamenga back to serve. Into the net. Mamenga went into the net, so a point for St. Francis. Fighting Saints trail by 7, and St. Xavier's all the way up to 22 now. So the Saints have to go on a run sooner rather than later. Not a whole lot of time here. Tipped at the net, but down on the St. Francis side, so that is a point for the Cougars. The Saints just haven't been able to get that run going. They need to go on a big spurt. St. Xavier is now just 1 point away from setting up a game point. Serves away from Corbett. Colleen Corbett sends it off. Taylor Valent is blocked, kept alive by Zakis, and Stephanie Woods gets it over. The rally goes on. Brooklyn Withy from the back line. Sends it deep and gets it in off the arm of Chloe Mamenga. I'm not sure if that ball was going to land in bounds. Mamenga may have been better served just stepping out of the way and hoping that it went out. But she hit it off the side of her arm and straight backwards. An easy point at that point for St. Francis. Balance serve is off. But a big hit by Nadia Atten. Gets St. Xavier back on the board, and now they'll have 8 consecutive game points. All they need is 1. Cassidy Wyman first up to try to make this a 5-set match. A lollipop serve played by Stephanie Woods. Withy keeps the Saints alive for at least one more point. 24-17. Katie Zakis will serve for the Fighting Saints. Saints need 7 more points in a row, at least. Good play by Palmo to keep it alive. There's Pacheco getting it over and down. Hannah Pacheco gets the point for St. Francis. They've still got a pulse, trailing 24-18. St. Xavier calls a timeout. They don't want to let this thing get any closer than it has to. St. Xavier appeared, and still does appear to have it in hand, but St. Francis is not going down quietly. And so Bob Herzema calls his team over to try to help them put it away. St. Xavier took the opening set 26-24. A couple of very impressive wins for St. Francis after that. Overall, in this match, the Fighting Saints have outscored the Cougars by 8 points. But if the Cougars get one more here, the overall match totals won't really matter so much. The only score that'll matter at that point is 2-2. We'll be all tied in terms of the number of sets won, and we'll head to the final one for the first 2:15. I've said it several times already, but the Saints, who granted have only played 2 home matches prior to tonight, have not yet played one at home where they didn't go the distance. Katie Zakis' serve is a good one, but it's returned. Zakis down on her knees to play that. Here's Withy, and Withy gets another one for St. Francis. 24-19 is our score. Saints needed 8 consecutive points. They've gotten 3 of them, so they're nearly halfway there. Here's Nadia Atten. Returned by Palmo and dropped down by Atten. That one got away from Palmo, and Atten was able to take advantage and pick up a game point. You get 8 straight game points. You figure you're going to probably get one of them, and St. Xavier finally did. So final score 25-19, and we are headed for a 5th set. Next team to score 15 points is going to walk out of here a lot happier than the other side. All tied up right now, 2-2. Back in just a couple of minutes with the finale. Two teams head out onto the floor for the fifth and final set of the evening. St. Francis took the middle two games, 25-15, 25-19. St. Xavier took the first and fourth, 26-24 and 25-19. So here we go into the fifth. The third home match of the season for St. Francis. All three of them have gone to 5 sets. They have played 16 games away from home, and only one of those has gone to 5 sets. So I think just something about the Sullivan Center. They just like being here. They don't feel like leaving early. Here we go. St. Xavier on the right side sends the serve away. Palmo keeps it alive, and Zakis gets it over. All-important first point up for grabs here. Pacheco for Withy. It's tipped by St. Xavier. They can't keep it going. So the Saints take a 1-0 advantage over St. Xavier, and a first to 15 set rather than first to 25. Each one of those points is just a little bit more precious. And Nadia Atten picks up a big one for St. Xavier. We're tied at 1. It's been no surprise because it's been the case all year, but Nadia Atten has been the offensive key for St. Xavier all night. She's had a big match, and they've needed her to. Pacheco for Ballard, and she gets it across. That's blocked. Blocked by St. Francis. Stefanski, Kendra Bullard both in on that one. I think Stefanski's the one who got her hand on it, but Bullard right beside her, and a good defensive effort regardless. 2-1. Saints claim the lead. Here's Alexis Engst. Engst on defense. Withy taps it over, but into the antenna. She was off to the side there. That ball drifted in her direction. Tried to keep it in bounds and not quite able to do so. We're tied at 2. Engst for Withy. Withy pushes it over. 2 hands to the back line, and she drops it on top of that line. Just in. Saints lead by a point, 3-2. St. Francis is 7-1 over their last 8 matches overall, trying to make it 8 wins in their last 9 over the last 2 weeks. Back and forth, a little pinball. Somehow the Saints keep it alive, and the Cougars are able to respond, get it back over. Here's a chance for Stefanski, and she knocks it in. That's a kill for Lauren Stefanski, and the Saints lead 4-2. Quick timeout called by St. Xavier. That was a nice hit by Stefanski, but it was precipitated by that great defense from the Saints just a few moments earlier. Now, somehow they kept the ball alive. It looked like it was going to drop for sure. It bounced off a couple of players, and I think it was Alexis Engst and Brooklyn Witty Navy who had bounced back and forth against, and then they were able to knock it over the net. Finally, after it looked for sure like it was going to drop to the ground. Katie Zakis, I believe, was the one who was able to salvage that possession. And then again, it was Stefanski who ended up with the kill a moment later. So the Saints lead 4-2. Out of the timeout, Brooklyn Witty has the serve. And Alexandra Wiss has the kill. Nice ball there by Wiss. St. Xavier is back within 1. For St. Xavier, this is only the second 5-set match of the year. They lost the first one, but the final score was 15-13, so not as though they didn't put up a fight. Here's Engst setting up Valent, tipped at the net, kept alive by the Cougars. Here's Wiss, blocked, still alive. That was Mamenga rather than Wiss, and a 4-hit possession by the Cougars. Apparently that one went into the net. I thought it was blocked, but no, it never went back over to St. Francis' side. So the Saints get a point on the error committed by the Cougars. Hannah Monfrey gets the serve. Just barely dinked over by the Cougars. Valent back across. Pushed over by St. Xavier. Here's Eng setting up Stephanie Woods. Good defense by Grace Murphy. Good defense by Brooklyn Withy. Stephanie Woods trying for some good offense. It's returned. Here we go, back and forth for a crucial point, and it belongs to the Saints. Taylor Valent tips it down. And they are doubling up their opposition. 6-3 is the score. They need just 9 points to walk out of here with a victory. Here's the serve from Monfrey. Blocked by the Saints again. Woods and Livesey Clark at the net. Saints lead 7-3. Monfrey gets another serve for the Fighting Saints. Goes to the middle, back line, Murphy. Returned by the Cougars, but kept alive by the Saints. Witty forces it across with two hands. Another block. Big hit by Kelly Lynn Katowski. I think that's her first hit of the game. And Katowski gets it over, but blocked. Woods and Livesey Grork have been devastating up at the net during this fifth set for the Fighting Saints. And as they pick up the 8th point, the two teams will flip sides. Saints now off to the right with the Cougars on the left. Big lead for St. Francis. 5 points might not be a huge lead in most games, but when you're playing up to 15 and you're more than doubling up the opponent at this stage, you put yourself in a pretty good position to win as Monfrey serves another one, and this time Cougars are able to respond. Chloe Maminga gets it across and past the blockers this time. 8-4. Natalie Davidson comes in to serve for St. Xavier. We've not seen much of Natalie Davidson tonight. She gets a chance now in the 5th set. Stephanie Woods, good hit, good defense. Davidson gets it over. Witty for Angst to Livesey Grork, a little bit behind her. She taps it across anyway. Not able to get a lot of force on it though as the Cougars return it. Pushed across, Woods returns. Big hit, blocked again by the Saints. Cougars get it across and down. Cassidy Wyman, good hit. Faked the set, pushed it over. It was a very entertaining rally, but it goes St. Xavier's way. They're within 3. Another hit from the sophomore Davidson. Brooklyn Witty drops it in. Mayer tried to return it, didn't have the right angle at it, and she knocked it down instead. 9-5. Here's the serve from Pacheco, and she gets a little help from the net. Drops it in for an ace. It's 10-5. Timeout called by St. Xavier. That's their last of the night. And a tough break for them right there. It's almost impossible to plan that one out as perfectly as Pacheco just dropped it in. Rolled off the top of the net. Hit the net at just the right point so that it would not bounce back and stay on St. Francis's side. But the ball completely deadened, dropped immediately on the opposite end of it. And there was absolutely no chance for St. Xavier to return it. Saints don't spend a whole lot of time on the sideline during the timeout here. They don't need to. They're on a roll. They want to keep it going. Keep that momentum in their favor. Get their players back on the floor. It's going to be Withy, Valent, Woods, Bullard, and Zakis. with Pacheco still doing the serving. St. Xavier's got Wyman, Wiss, Atten, Davidson, Mayer, and Murphy on the floor as the serve is away. Alexandra Wiss gets it in for a point. Valentin Woods went up for the block, but blocked it out of bounds. 10-6. It's not over yet. St. Xavier made a good run late in the first set tonight. They were down 15-9, stormed back for the 26-24 win. This one's going to be a little bit tougher. Out of bounds. It'll be even tougher now as it's 11-6. They had the same deficit, 6 points in this game, but it came a little bit later on in the game. They've got to outscore St. Francis 9-3 the rest of the way, and now it's going to have to be 9-2 as an ace is picked up by Taylor Valent to make it 12-6. Really, it's got to be 9-1 or 10-2. You got to win by 2. Another serve from Valent. This one into the net. That makes it 12-7. Cassidy Wyman sends the serve off with the left hand and out of bounds. Katie Zakis was tiptoeing right along with that ball, hoping it would go out. Not quite sure. It was close, but it did indeed drop out of bounds, and now Zakis gets the serve, leading 2 points for the win. Her serve goes out of bounds as well. That one, really no question about it. A little bit too hard. It's 13-8. Nadia Atten gets the serve for St. Xavier. Palmo returns it. Stefanski drops it down right in front of the diving Atten. And now it's match point for St. Francis, and they'll have 6 of them in a row if they need them. Alexis Inkst, though, will try to put her away right here. Sophomore server sends it off. Blocked at the net, kept alive by St. Xavier. Mominga tipped back to Palmo. Angst for Stefanski, and a good save by Cassidy Wyman. Here's Belseth to the back line. That's inbounds. Just did hit the line. Nice placement by Jessica Belseth. And St. Xavier is not dead yet. 14-9 our score. Cougars still need 5 more points in a row. Cougars bring on a sub. Alexandra Wiss back in there to help out at the net. Here's the serve from Grace Murphy. Saints need a point to win. Jade Livesey-Gork tipped, and a good diving play by Wyman. Nice defense by Zakis there. Here's Withy with the right hand, gets it over. Blocked by Livesey-Gork, and a point to the Saints. They get the win. 15-9 the final here in the 5th set. St. Francis captures the match from St. Xavier. Well, they're getting used to playing long ones here at home, but as long as they keep going in this direction, they're fine with it. This is their 2nd consecutive home victory. It's their 4th straight win overall, and they move to a season best 3 games above 500. St. Francis with the win improves to 11-8 overall this year. They're now a very impressive 6-1 in conference play. They've won 5 straight CCAC matches. There's only one team ahead of them right now in the conference standings. That's Trinity Christian. The only unbeaten CCAC team left came in tonight at 5-0. They were in action this evening against Calumet St. Joseph, and presuming that Trinity Christian won that one for the time being, St. Francis will be just a half game out of first in the conference still. And they'll see Trinity Christian not too far from now, a week from Saturday. They are at Trinity Christian. The Trolls do not make a return trip over here this year, so that'll be a big match, but a few more big ones coming up between now and then for St. Francis. They'll be at Indiana Northwest a week from today. And Indiana Northwest off to a really good start to this season as well. They've won 7 of their first 10 matches. And then next Thursday, they're back at home. That's a 7 o'clock start time. Here at the Sullivan Center, we'll have the broadcast for you through GoFightingSaints.com. As always, you're on the USF Sports Network, 7 o'clock next Thursday night against Judson. Another team playing some good volleyball. They're 12-6 overall, though just 2-3 so far this year in conference play. With the victory tonight, St. Francis now 11-8 overall, 6-1 in conference. A really impressive showing overall. They had a big lead in game 1, lost it, ended up falling 26-24. They controlled the next 2 sets, 25-15, 25-19. St. Xavier came out hot in the 4th set, had their best game of the night, 25-19 a win, and then this 5th set was really never in doubt. St. Francis had it the entire way. They end up cruising to the 15-9 victory. With the loss, St. Xavier falls to 3-9 overall. They're now 2-4 in conference play this year. Again, next couple of matches for St. Francis on the road next Tuesday at Indiana Northwest, and we'll have the broadcast for you a week from Thursday, October 3rd, 7 o'clock start time as they take on Judson. That's the next time that I'll be with you. Time to sign off for tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed a St. Francis victory, their 8th in their last 9 matches. Until next time, this is Terry Bonadonna saying good night for the University of St. Francis from Joliet, Illinois. Talk to you next time.